Nostradamus and the Rise of Hitler. Nostradamus, also known as Michel de Nostradame, gained significant renown during his lifetime and continues to be a subject of controversy in contemporary times. As a writer who transitioned from being a French apothecary, he engaged in the practice of making supernatural predictions regarding future events, a practice that understandably led to his lack of favor among the authorities of the Catholic Church. Nostradamus has been attributed by certain scholars with the ability to forecast significant historical events such as the Great Fire of London, the French Revolution, Hiroshima, the assassination of JFK, 9/11, and the rise of Adolf Hitler. In his statement, "From the depths of the west of Europe, a young child will be born of poor people. He who by his tongue will seduce a great troop. His fame will increase towards the realm of the east. Beasts ferocious with hunger will cross the rivers. The greater part of the battlefield will be against Hester. Into a cage of iron will the Great One be drawn, when the child of Germany observes nothing." The primary factor of concern pertains to the term Heister, which may potentially be a misspelling of Hitler. Furthermore, it is highly probable that the names Heister or Ister are considered archaic designations for the Danube River. Admittedly, Hitler's birthplace was situated in close proximity to the Danube River. However, this geographical proximity does not provide sufficient evidence to substantiate the notion that Nostradamus accurately foresaw Hitler's ascent. Additional evident indicators encompass his birth into a socioeconomically disadvantaged family, his exceptional oratory skills, as evidenced by the phrase, "his tongue will seduce a great troop," and his propensity for imperialistic endeavors, as exemplified by the phrase, "beasts ferocious with hunger will cross the rivers." One of the lines in the text, "Into a cage of iron will the Great One be drawn," contains an ambiguous longshot that potentially alludes to the utilization of tanks. However, the concluding line, "when the child of Germany observes nothing," is particularly captivating. The usage of the term Germany during the 1500s presents certain challenges due to the fact that the country did not officially adopt the name Germany until 1871. However, it is worth noting that the Germans did not demonstrate astute observation. Could this potentially allude to the Holocaust that occurred at a considerable distance from German towns and villages? The Great Fire of London. The Great Fire of London was a terrible incident that left 100,000 people homeless, making up 1/6 of the city's population, and destroyed 13,200 houses, 87 parish churches, 6 chapels, 44 company halls, the Royal Exchange, the Custom House, St. Paul's Cathedral, the Guildhall, the Bridewell and other city prisons, the Session House, 4 bridges over the Thames and Fleet rivers, and 3 city gates. People wanted to find someone to blame for the damage, so a special committee brought in a number of suspects. English astrologer William Lilly was told to appear in the Speaker's Chamber of the House of Commons on Friday, October 25, 1666, to testify before a special committee that was set up to look into what caused the terrible fire in London in September. It was said that Lilly had correctly predicted the start of the fire 14 years before when he published the book Monarchy or No Monarchy in England. That book had 19 drawings and hieroglyphics that were meant to look like predictions. In his autobiography, Lilly wrote that he was very nervous around the committee after realizing that they thought he had started the fire. He asked Ashmole for help when he realized that some of the committeemen knew his friend. He hoped Ashmole could turn to him for help. The chairman, Sir Robert Brooke, asked him about the writing in Monarchy or No Monarchy. The astrologer was careful not to offend the committee. He told them that after the king was killed, he had used his craft to figure out what would happen to England in the future. Lilly explained that, having foreseen that the city of London would be sadly afflicted with a great plague and, not long after, with an exorbitant fire, he had framed 2 hieroglyphics as represented in his book. According to Lilly, these hieroglyphics had proved to be very accurate. When someone inquired whether he knew the exact year the fire would start, Lilly responded that he did not, or it was his wish not to recall. He admitted he had not paid much attention to that detail. The committee appeared satisfied with his explanation, thanked him for his time, and then dismissed him, which made Lilly happy. However, whether Lilly was entirely truthful remains questionable. A closer examination of the hieroglyphics suggests that he may not have been fully honest. The Three Secrets of Fátima. Many people may have heard about the secrets of Fátima. There are three of these so-called secrets, which were parts of Mary's message to the shepherd children, but were not immediately made public. This is especially true for the third secret of Fátima, which Lucia only revealed after being directly ordered to do so by her bishop and was not made public until 1960. There are three secrets of Fátima. Over the course of 6 apparitions, Our Lady revealed 3 secrets, or visions, to the children, known as the Three Secrets of Fátima. The 3 secrets or prophecies remained unknown until the 1940s, when Sister Lucia published her memoirs, revealing the first 2. The first secret was a vision of hell, filled with tortured souls in a sea of fire beneath the earth. The second secret was that World War I would end, but another great war would begin. World War II would start in 1939, as well as a request that the Russian people convert to Catholicism. Sister Lucia did not want to share the third secret, but the Bishop of Leiria asked her to write it down, and the document remained sealed until 2000. The third secret of Fátima was finally revealed in 2000, on the occasion of Francisco and Jacinta Marto's beatification. The third secret involved a vision of Christian persecution, specifically an attack on a bishop dressed in white. The prophecy is interpreted as a vision of Pope John Paul II's assassination attempt in St. Peter's Square in 1981, which occurred on the 13th of May, the feast day of Fátima. Pope John Paul believed the Virgin Mary had saved his life that day, and he sent the bullet to Fátima to be placed in the crown of Our Lady of Fátima, where it fit perfectly. Mark Twain's prophecy of his death. Samuel Clemens, who is more commonly recognized as Mark Twain, came into the world in 1835, shortly after the occurrence of Halley's Comet. In 1909, the American author of Tom Sawyer and Huckleberry Finn made a bold prediction, indicating the significance of the event to him. In his statement, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet. The Almighty has said, no doubt, now here are these 2 unaccountable freaks. They came in together. They must go out together." In the year 1835, on the night that Halley was born, the Comet of Halley ripped across the night sky with a brilliant display. Following the reappearance of the comet in 1910, Clemens passed away. For every 75 years, Halley's Comet will come and go. However, Mark Twain's brilliance has continued to shine brightly, even up until the present day. On April 21, 1910, he passed away, which was one day after the comet had once again reached its perihelion as predicted. Abraham Lincoln's dream of his assassination. Lincoln is widely believed to have predicted his assassination because he discussed a dream he had with Ward Hill Lemon. On the night he went to Ford's Theater, Lincoln told his bodyguard, William H. Crook, that he had been having dreams for 3 days in a row, and when he left the White House he said, "Goodbye," rather than his typical, "Good night." According to the story, just a few days before his assassination on April 14, 1865, Lincoln shared a recent dream with a small group of people, including his wife, Mary Todd, and Layman. In it, he walked into the White House's East Room, where he discovered a covered corpse guarded by soldiers and surrounded by mourners. When Lincoln asked one of the soldiers who had died, he responded, "The President. An assassin killed him." Interestingly, Lincoln allegedly later told Layman that the body on display was not his own, so he did not interpret the dream as a foreshadowing of his own death. Some historians have questioned Layman's account, which was first published in the 1880s, nearly 2 decades after the assassination. Though Layman claimed to have reconstructed the incident based on notes he took in 1865, it appears odd that neither he nor Mary Lincoln mentioned the dream immediately following the president's murder. Even if Layman's story is not true, Abraham Lincoln appears to have been very interested in the meaning of dreams and what they can tell us about future events, both positive and negative. An 1863 letter to his wife, who was in Philadelphia with their 10-year-old son Tad, demonstrates his curiosity. Lincoln writes that Mary should put Tad's pistol away because he had an ugly dream about him. Furthermore, members of Lincoln's cabinet recalled that on the morning of his assassination, the president told them he had a dream about sailing across an unknown body of water at high speeds. He also claimed to have had the same dream several times before nearly every great and important event of the war. This story emphasizes Lincoln's interest in the predictive power of dreams, but it does not provide hard evidence that he predicted his own death. The prediction: Baba Vanga death and Russian submarine. Baba Vanga, also known as the Nostradamus of the Balkans, was a blind woman from Bulgaria who became globally famous due to the eerie accuracy of her predictions. Born prematurely in 1911, she lived with her family in Strumica, modern-day North Macedonia, which was part of the Ottoman Empire at the time. Her family was very poor, and her father fought in the Bulgarian army during World War I, and her mother passed away while she was still very young. However, she managed to lead a relatively ordinary life during her early years. At the age of 12, a mysterious event robbed her of her sight. A tornado supposedly lifted her high into the air and dropped her into a nearby field, leaving her eyes sealed shut. She later claimed she experienced her first prophetic vision during those days lying alone in the field. She believed she had gained abilities beyond our mortal realm and could not only predict the future but also heal people as well. She later credited her paranormal powers to invisible creatures, although she struggled to fully understand who or what they were. As the 20th century progressed, it became clear that Vanga held an uncanny ability to predict major world events. In 1989, she claimed, "American brethren will fall after being attacked by steel birds. Innocent blood will be gushing," which many attribute to the 9/11 terror attacks. She was also said to have predicted the sinking of the Kursk, the Russian submarine that went down in 2000. Baba Vanga predicted her own death on August 11, 1996, at the age of 85. Many Bulgarian and Soviet scientists studied and tested Vanga throughout her life, concluding that she had an 85% success rate in her predictions. Fortunately, the nuclear war Vanga predicted would occur from 2010 to 2014 ended up amongst the 15% she got wrong. Although Baba Vanga is gone for over a quarter of a century, the name Baba Vanga remains revered worldwide. If her predictions for our future pan out, we should expect the arrival of aliens via an asteroid in 2022, world hunger eradicated in 2028, and a Martian colony gaining independence from Earth by 2256. The prophecy of the Titanic sinking. In April 1912, the RMS Titanic went down in the Atlantic Ocean. Morgan Robertson's novel, published just over a decade ago, told the story of a remarkably similar tragedy. A little more than a century ago, the RMS Titanic, one of the largest ships ever built, sank in the North Atlantic Ocean, causing one of history's most visible maritime disasters. The tragedy occurred in the early hours of April 15, 1912, and killed 1,496 of the 2,108 people on board. The ship's wreckage, which is now making headlines for all the wrong reasons, is nearly 4,000 meters below the surface near Newfoundland. The Titanic was on its maiden voyage, traveling from Southampton to New York. The White Star Line vessel, thought to be unsinkable, collided with an iceberg 4 days after setting sail from the UK, tearing a hole in its starboard side. It only took a few hours to sink. The first and most obvious similarity is in the names of the ships, as Robertson chose to name his craft the Titan. Both the Titan and the Titanic collided with an iceberg on their starboard side on a cold night in April, about 900 miles from New York. While the fictional tragedy occurs in adverse conditions, the Titanic sailed in normal weather. The Titan was traveling from New York to Southampton, while the Titanic was heading in the opposite direction. Both had been labeled unsinkable. The former sank in minutes, whereas the Titanic lasted about 3 hours after colliding with the iceberg. The Titan has a capacity of 3,000 passengers in futility, but only 13 make it off the ship alive. Fortunately, the Titanic sinking did not result in the same near 0% survival rate. In both cases, the ships were designed with a system of watertight compartments. Furthermore, the Titan was just over 880 feet long, making it roughly the same size as the 800-foot-long Titanic. Both liners featured 3 propellers and 2 masts. The uncanny parallels between Robertson's story and the Titanic disaster have led many to believe that his novella was a prophetic warning of the tragedy to come. Edgar Cayce predicted the Cuban Missile Crisis. Edgar Cayce, also referred to as the Sleeping Prophet, was a clairvoyant from the United States who made a number of significant predictions during his lifetime. A prediction that he made in 1962 regarding the Cuban Missile Crisis is considered to be one of his most famous predictions. The United States of America and a communist nation in the Caribbean would engage in a conflict in the future, according to Cayce's prediction, which would bring the entire world to the verge of nuclear war. The Cuban Missile Crisis was a tense standoff that lasted for 13 days and took place in October 1962. It was a disagreement between the United States of America and the Soviet Union regarding the deployment of nuclear missiles on Cuba. During the course of the Cold War, the crisis brought the world to a point where it was closer to a nuclear conflict than at any other time. It is common practice to cite Cayce's prediction of a major conflict in the Caribbean that could result in a catastrophe on a global scale as evidence of his prophetic abilities. The prophecy of the Irish potato famine. It is believed that Saint Malachy, an Irish bishop who lived in the 12th century, made a number of predictions regarding the future of the Catholic Church and Ireland throughout his life. There is a belief that one of his prophecies accurately predicted the Great Irish Famine that occurred in the 1840s. In his prophecy, Malachy predicted that Ireland would be struck by a terrible disaster that would result in a large number of deaths and emigrations. The Irish potato famine, which began in 1845, resulted in the deaths of more than 1 million people as a result of starvation and disease. It also prompted a large-scale migration, particularly to the United States of America. The famine had a significant influence on the population of Ireland, as well as the social and economic configuration of the country. A haunting prediction of one of the most tragic periods in Irish history, St. Malachy's prophecy of a great disaster in Ireland is remembered as a haunting prediction of the tragic period. The prediction of the COVID-19 pandemic. In her book titled End of Days, which was published in 2008, the well-known American psychic Sylvia Browne described a severe illness that was similar to pneumonia and would spread all over the world in the year 2020. Browne described the illness as something that would suddenly appear, cause widespread panic, and then disappear as quickly as it arrived, only to reappear 10 years later. Browne made this statement in reference to the illness. There are a lot of people who think that this prediction is eerily similar to the COVID-19 pandemic, which started in the latter half of 2019 and turned into a worldwide health crisis in the year 2020. Although some people believe that Browne had a premonition of the pandemic due to the accuracy of her timeline and description, others argue that her prediction was hazy and coincidental. Browne's timeline and description accurately describe the pandemic. Like and subscribe for more awesome videos like this.